What happens when royal privilege crashes headfirst into brutal honesty on live television? In just 36 seconds, one comment would trigger an explosive meltdown that ended with a prince being escorted off set. This is that story. But before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because we're pulling back the curtain on royalty's dark side. We're exposing entitled celebrities and their shocking behavior the cameras never showed you. We've got the raw footage they don't want you to see, and you won't want to miss a single reveal. Drop a comment below and tell us what you think about this outrageous behavior. The studio lights were blazing hot that night. Bill Maher sat behind his desk, relaxed, confident, ready to have what he thought would be a typical celebrity interview. His guest? Prince Harry himself. The audience was packed. Every seat filled with people eager to see American bluntness meet British royalty. Harry walked onto the stage with that familiar smile, waving to the crowd like he owned the place. The applause was deafening. He sat down, crossed his legs, adjusted his jacket. Bill leaned forward with that signature smirk of his. "Welcome to the show," Bill said. "Thanks for being here." "Thanks for having me," Harry replied, his accent crisp and proper. The first few minutes rolled along smoothly. Small talk, light jokes. Bill asked about adjusting to life in California. Harry talked about the weather, the beaches, how different everything felt. The audience laughed at the right moments. Everything seemed perfectly fine. Then Bill shifted gears. "So let's talk about the real stuff," Bill said, leaning back in his chair. "You've been pretty vocal about your family issues, pretty public about all of it. Some people say you're brave. Other people say you're just airing dirty laundry for a paycheck. What do you say to that?" The audience went quiet. You could feel the tension spike. Harry's smile faded just a little. He cleared his throat. "Well, I think people don't understand the full picture," Harry said. "When you grow up in that environment, trapped in that system, you don't have a voice. I'm finally using mine." Bill nodded slowly. Right. But you've written books, you've done documentaries, multiple interviews. At what point does using your voice become exploiting your family for profit?" Harry's jaw tightened. "That's not what this is about, isn't it though?" Bill pressed. "I mean, you left because you wanted privacy, right? That was the big thing. You wanted to be left alone. But then you signed massive deals to talk about not wanting to be talked about. Help me understand the logic there." The audience murmured. Some uncomfortable laughs. Harry shifted in his seat. "You're simplifying it," Harry said, his voice getting an edge to it. "It's not about privacy. It's about controlling the narrative. It's about telling my truth." "Your truth?" Bill repeated. "See, that phrase bugs me. Your truth. There's just truth, facts, what happened. Not your version, not my version, just what actually happened." Harry leaned forward now, pointing at Bill. "That's easy for you to say. You don't have the entire British press making up lies about you every single day. You don't have your own family leaking stories to destroy you." "Maybe not," Bill said calmly. "But I also don't go on international television to trash my family and then act surprised when people call me out on it." The room went ice cold. Harry's face turned red. "You don't know what you're talking about," Harry snapped. "Then explain it to me," Bill said, spreading his hands. "Seriously, explain how complaining about your privilege while living in a mansion makes you relatable to regular people." Harry stood up halfway, then sat back down. His hands were shaking. "This is ridiculous. You invited me here to attack me?" "I invited you here to have a conversation," Bill said. "But if you can't handle basic questions without falling apart, maybe that says something." "Basic questions?" Harry's voice was getting louder. "You're sitting here mocking me for speaking about my trauma." "No," Bill interrupted. "I'm asking you why you monetize your trauma. Big difference." Harry pointed at Bill again, this time more aggressively. "You have no idea what it's like to be me. None. You sit here in your comfortable little bubble, judging everyone, acting superior." "Actually," Bill said, staying remarkably calm, "I sit here asking questions. That's my job. If those questions make you uncomfortable, that's on you, not me." The audience was completely silent now, all eyes bouncing between Bill and Harry like watching a tennis match. "You're a bully," Harry said. "That's what this is. You bring people on to humiliate them." Bill laughed, actually laughed. "I'm a bully? That's rich. You've spent years publicly criticizing your father, your brother, your entire family. But I'm the bully for asking you about it? That's different," Harry insisted. "How?" Bill asked. "How is it different?" "Because they deserve it," Harry shouted. The audience gasped. Bill raised his eyebrows. "They deserve it," Bill repeated slowly. "Your family deserves to be publicly humiliated because Why exactly? Because they didn't give you everything you wanted? Because they expected you to do your job? My job? Harry was fully standing now. My job was to be a prop, to smile and wave and shut up while they protected my brother and threw me to the wolves. You were a prince, Bill said flatly. Literally, you had every advantage in the world. And you're sitting here acting like a victim because what? You had to go to ribbon cuttings? Cry me a river. Harry's hands balled into fists. You're unbelievable. I'm honest, Bill corrected. Maybe that's not something you're used to. Maybe everyone around you just agrees with whatever you say. But not here. Not on my show. Your show? Harry mocked. Your little show where you get to play the wise guy, where you get to tear people down to make yourself feel important? Bill smiled. Not a friendly smile, a knowing smile. There it is, the real you. Not the victim, not the traumatized prince. Just an entitled guy who can't handle being challenged. I'm entitled? Harry was practically yelling now. I gave up everything. My family, my country, my titles. You gave up your titles? Bill looked confused. Pretty sure you still use them. Pretty sure your wife still calls herself Duchess. So you gave them up? Except when they're useful? Harry stepped closer to the desk. Security started moving from the sides of the stage. You don't get to talk about my wife, Harry said, his voice dangerously low. I didn't, Bill said. I just pointed out a fact. If facts upset you that much, you're in the wrong place. No, Harry said. You're in the wrong. You think you're so smart, so clever. But you're just another American who doesn't understand anything about duty or service or sacrifice. Bill stood up now too. Duty? You want to lecture me about duty? You quit. You literally quit your job and moved to another country. That's the opposite of duty. I had to, Harry shouted. For my mental health, for my family's safety. From what? Bill asked. From cameras? From journalists? Welcome to being famous. That's the deal. You don't get the palaces and the money and the status without the attention. You can't have it both ways. Watch me, Harry said coldly. I am watching you, Bill replied. And what I see is someone who wants all the benefits of being royal with none of the responsibility. Someone who wants sympathy while living a life 99% of people would kill for. Harry grabbed the edge of Bill's desk. You're done. This interview is done. No, Bill said, sitting back down. You're done. You came on my show. You agreed to this. If you can't handle it, that's your problem. I don't have to sit here and take this abuse, Harry said. It's not abuse, Bill said tiredly. It's accountability. Something you clearly aren't familiar with. Harry looked at the audience, then at the cameras, then back at Bill. His face was purple with rage. You know what your problem is? Harry said. You're jealous. Jealous that you'll never be anything more than a talk show host. While I was born into greatness, the audience actually booed. Not at Bill. At Harry. Bill just smiled and shook his head. Born into greatness. There it is. The quiet part out loud. You think you're better than everyone because of who your grandmother was. I am better, Harry said. I'm a prince. You're a former working royal living off Netflix money? Bill corrected. There's a difference. Harry picked up his glass of water from the desk and for a split second, it looked like he might throw it, but he didn't. He just slammed it back down, splashing water everywhere. I'm leaving, Harry announced. Good, Bill said. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. This will be everywhere tomorrow, Harry threatened. Everyone will see how you treated me. I'm counting on it, Bill said. Let them see a grown man throw a tantrum because he got asked legitimate questions. Harry ripped off his microphone, the wire pulling and snapping. He threw it on the floor. You're pathetic, Harry spat. And you're entitled? Bill shot back. At least I earned my spot. What did you do besides being born? That was it. The final straw. Harry lunged forward, pointing his finger inches from Bill's face. Say that again, Harry growled. I dare you. Security rushed in. Two large men in black suits grabbed Harry by the arm. He tried to shake them off. Get your hands off me, Harry yelled. Do you know who I am? Yeah, one of the security guards said. You're the guy getting escorted out. Bill stood behind his desk, arms crossed, watching the whole scene unfold with an expression that can only be described as satisfied. This is assault, Harry screamed as they pulled him backward. I'll have your jobs, all of you. The audience was a mix of shocked faces and people pulling out their phones to record. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second. You're nothing, Harry shouted at Bill as they dragged him toward the exit. You hear me? Nothing. Just a talk show host who peaked 20 years ago. Bill picked up his coffee mug, took a slow sip, and spoke into his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, Prince Harry, everyone, showing us all that breeding doesn't equal class." The audience erupted. Some cheered, some laughed, some just sat there stunned. Harry was still yelling from backstage, his voice echoing through the studio. Something about lawsuits and dignity, and how dare they? Bill turned to the camera with that trademark grin. "We'll be right back after this break. Assuming our next guest can handle a conversation without having a meltdown." The camera zoomed in on Bill's face as he winked. Cut to commercial. Backstage was chaos. Harry was pacing back and forth, face still red, breathing heavy. His handlers were trying to calm him down, but he kept interrupting them. "Did you hear what he said to me?" Harry kept repeating. "Did you hear him?" One of his people tried to put a hand on his shoulder. Harry shook it off violently. "Don't touch me," Harry snapped. "None of you should have let that happen. You should have stopped it." "You agreed to do the show," someone reminded him gently. "I didn't agree to be disrespected," Harry yelled. "I'm a prince. You can't talk to me like that." Meanwhile, back in the studio, Bill was chatting with the audience during the commercial break. He seemed completely unfazed. "Well," Bill said to the crowd, "that was fun." The audience laughed nervously. One woman raised her hand. "Is he coming back?" she asked. Bill shook his head. "I don't think so. And honestly, good riddance. Life's too short to deal with people who think their last name makes them special." More applause. Bill took another sip of coffee. When the show came back from commercial, Bill addressed what just happened head on. "So," Bill said to the camera, "in case you missed it, our guest just had a bit of a moment. And by moment, I mean a complete breakdown because someone dared to ask him real questions." The audience laughed. "Look," Bill continued, "I've been doing this a long time. I've interviewed presidents, criminals, celebrities, everyone. And you know what I've learned? The people who can't handle tough questions are usually the ones who have something to hide." He leaned forward, getting serious. "Prince Harry came on this show expecting a softball interview, expected me to nod along while he played the victim. But that's not what we do here. We ask questions. We push back. We don't care if you're a prince or a janitor. Everyone gets treated the same." The audience applauded loudly. "And when you respond to questions by threatening people and throwing tantrums?" Bill shook his head. "That tells me everything I need to know about your character, or lack thereof." Back in the green room, Harry was on the phone. His voice was strained, frantic. "I want him sued," Harry was saying. "I want everyone involved sued. That was an ambush, a complete ambush." Whoever was on the other end was apparently trying to reason with him. Harry wasn't having it. "I don't care what it costs," Harry said. "That man humiliated me on live television. He needs to pay." One of his assistants approached carefully. "Sir, we really should go." "I'm not done," Harry snapped. "The building security wants us to leave," the assistant said quietly. "They're asking us to go now." Harry looked around the room like he couldn't believe what he was hearing, like the rules couldn't possibly apply to him. "Fine," he finally said. "But this isn't over. Not even close." He stormed out of the green room, through the backstage area, past crew members who all stopped to stare. Harry kept his head up, trying to maintain some dignity. But his red face and disheveled appearance told the real story. Outside, photographers were already waiting. Word had spread fast. Cameras flashed as Harry climbed into his waiting car, refusing to answer any questions. Inside the studio, Bill wrapped up the show like nothing unusual had happened. "That's our show for tonight," Bill said to the camera. "Thanks for watching. And remember, always question authority, even if that authority thinks they're special because of who their daddy is." One final laugh from the audience. The credits rolled. The incident exploded online within minutes. Clips of the argument spread everywhere. People took sides immediately. Some defended Harry, saying Bill was too harsh. Others praised Bill for not backing down. But the footage spoke for itself. Harry's entitled outburst, his threats, his inability to handle basic scrutiny, the way he invoked his title like it was a shield against criticism. Bill's team released a statement later that night. Simple and direct. Bill Maher conducts fair and challenging interviews with all his guests. No one is above being asked tough questions. The show stands by everything that happened tonight. Harry's team released their own statement, much longer, much more defensive. It talked about ambush journalism, about disrespect, about how Harry was owed an apology, how Bill crossed a line, but the public reaction was clear. Social media was flooded with comments supporting Bill, calling out Harry's behavior, pointing out the irony of someone who built a career on complaining about his family having a meltdown when someone asked him legitimate questions. The phrase, "Do you know who I am?" became an instant meme. That moment when Harry said it to security, his voice dripping with arrogance, played over and over across every platform. Comedy shows picked it up. News programs analyzed it. Everyone had an opinion. But at the center of it all was a simple truth. A truth that Bill Maher had exposed in those 36 seconds when everything went wrong. Harry couldn't handle being treated like everyone else. He expected deference, expected people to bow and agree. And when that didn't happen, when he was challenged, he showed his true colors. The entitled prince who thought his birth gave him a pass, who believed that being royal meant never having to answer difficult questions, who responded to accountability with rage. Bill Maher, on the other hand, came out looking like exactly what he is, a guy who doesn't care about titles or status, who asks the questions other people are too afraid to ask, who treats everyone the same, whether you're royalty or not. That night showed the difference between someone who earned respect and someone who demands it, someone who can defend their positions and someone who falls apart when pushed, someone who understands that fame comes with scrutiny and someone who wants fame without consequences. The interview that was supposed to be a friendly chat became a defining moment, not because of what Bill said, but because of how Harry reacted. Every word out of Harry's mouth during that meltdown reinforced the exact criticisms people have been making about him for years. That he's out of touch, that he's hypocritical, that beneath the victim narrative lies someone who still very much believes he's better than regular people. Bill didn't make Harry look bad. Harry did that himself. All Bill did was create the space for Harry's true character to emerge. And emerge it did, in spectacular fashion. The image of Harry being escorted out by security, still yelling about how important he is, became iconic. A perfect snapshot of privilege meeting reality. And Bill, sitting calmly at his desk, sipping coffee, watching it all unfold with that knowing smile. That became iconic too. The smile of someone who just proved their point without saying a word. In the end, the incident wasn't about whether Bill was too harsh or Harry was too sensitive. It was about what happens when someone who's used to special treatment encounters someone who refuses to give it. What happens when entitlement crashes into equality? What happens when a prince realizes his title means nothing to someone who doesn't care? Harry wanted to be seen as brave for speaking his truth. Instead, he showed himself to be brittle, unable to withstand even mild criticism. Quick to anger, quick to threaten, quick to hide behind his status. Bill wanted to have a real conversation, to dig past the rehearsed answers and find something authentic. And he did, just not in the way anyone expected. The authentic Harry that emerged wasn't the thoughtful reformer he tries to present. It was the angry, entitled, thin-skinned man who can't accept that leaving the royal family means leaving behind the protection that came with it. No more palace PR teams to clean up his mess. No more carefully controlled interviews with friendly journalists. Just him, his words, and the consequences. And those consequences, in this case, meant being escorted off a talk show by security, while the host and audience watched in a mixture of shock and satisfaction. It was brutal. It was awkward. It was uncomfortable. It was also completely deserved. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to make a career out of criticizing others, you better be ready to take criticism yourself. If you're going to demand that people listen to your truth, you better be willing to hear theirs. And if you're going to go on a show known for tough questions, you better come prepared to answer them. Harry did none of those things. Instead, he threw a tantrum worthy of a toddler. And in doing so, he proved every single point Bill Maher was making about him. The irony was lost on no one. That's the story of the night Prince Harry got kicked off Bill Maher's show. Not because he was treated unfairly, but because he couldn't handle being treated fairly. Not because the questions were too hard, but because he had no good answers. Not because Bill was a bully, but because Harry is used to getting his way and couldn't cope when he didn't. It was a masterclass in how not to handle criticism. A textbook example of privilege on full display. A reminder that being born special doesn't make you special. And most importantly, it was proof that Bill Maher, love him or hate him, does exactly what he promises. He asks the questions that need asking. He doesn't back down. He doesn't coddle. He treats everyone the same, even princes, especially princes.